Thank you very much for staying with us in the program State of the Nation. On Wednesday, the 6th of June, President Muhammadu Buhari declared that June 12 would henceforth be celebrated as Democracy Day instead of May the 29th. This is a move recognizing Chief Moshood Abiola's position in the evolution of the country's democracy. In the same statement, the federal government announced its decision to posthumously honor Chief MKO Abiola, the acclaimed winner of the 1993 presidential election, with the GCFR award, whilst honoring his running mates back then, Babagana Kingibe, with the GCON. Late lawyer and the human rights activist Gani Fahimi was also conferred with the second highest national honor, the GCON. Nigeria had its arguably freest presidential election on June 12, 1993, deemed to have been won by late Moshood Abiola. The election was annulled by the then military ruler, General Ibrahim Babangida. Now, varied reactions have trailed the announcement, and the National Assembly has applauded this decision but questioned the procedure. The lawmakers have also demanded that INEC release results of the June 12 presidential election. Now, before we get down to the implication of this move, watch this.
Done justice to it, because we all come from the Southwest.
Extending the tenure of a president beyond what the Constitution contemplates.
3494, 3495, 3480.
Well, those are clips from the joint session of the National Assembly debating or reacting rather to the announcement by President Muhammadu Buhari. But joining me in the studio right now to discuss the government's move is the Secretary of June 12 Coalition, Mr. Nelson Ekujumi. Thank you very much for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so finally, it took 25 years, but eventually we're here. The federal government has recognized the contribution of late Chief MKO Abiola in the race to democracy. How do you react to this?
Well, thank you very much. I think my reaction is one of joy and gratitude to the Almighty. It tells you clearly that the will of the people, as exercised on June 12, 1993, has finally prevailed. Because you recollect that Nigerians, in their millions, about 40 million people went to the polls on that day and elected the president, a Muslim ticket. We had a Chief MKO Abiola, a Muslim, and Ambassador Babagana Kingibe, also a Muslim, of the Social Democratic Party, contesting against Alhaji Bashir Tofa, as well as a Muslim, and his running mate then, Dr. Sylvester Ugo, a Christian of the National Republican Convention. Despite all the plots of the then ruling government to abort that election, finally the day came. You will recollect the clandestine move by the Association for Better Nigeria, that it took the intervention of the American government, issuing a threat to the Nigerian government that that election must hold. And when that election held, the results were already coming out. Then we woke up on the 23rd of June, 23rd of June 1993, only for us to hear that an unsigned piece of paper was issued annulling, stopping INEC from proceeding with the announcement of results. The election had already been concluded all over the country. What remained was the announcement process by the National Electoral Commission, then NEC, and that process was aborted. But since that date, Nigerians all over the country have refused to succumb to the threats, to the torture, to the traumatization of the people by the then government in annulling that election. And it was the annulment of that election, if you recollect, that led to the horrid exit of then military dictator General Babangida from power. He used that phrase, step aside. And when General Babangida stepped aside, and they brought in an NS-Chunekon, to placate Nigerians, believing that June 12 was a Southwest affair, because NS-Chunekon is from the Southwest, like the acclaimed winner of that election. Nigerians in their millions also said, no, we don't know you. You don't get into power by somebody appointing you over us. It's either you have planned a coup you overthrow a government or you win an election. And after the exit of Babangida and the resistance Nigeria put up against Shunekon, on November 10, 1993, a federal high court in Lagos, Justice Dolapo Akinsanya, declared the interim government illegal, unconstitutional, null and void.
Yeah, the stories are there. It's really no doubt that Nigerians agree that something important happened on June 12th. But it's amazing that this declaration came with a lot of controversy. For instance, the legal implication controversy. And some have argued that even though it was largely a right move, the federal government didn't go about it the right way. What's your disposition?
Well, my disposition is that these people making statements concerning it are only expressing personal opinion. I believe we can take it further if anybody feels the president has not done the appropriate thing in view of his powers as conferred on him by the Constitution. That people should go to court to let us even test our democracy, test our laws. Because I read through that national honors provisions in the Constitution, and what it states is that the president has the powers to bestow that honor to somebody in person. So what they are saying now is that because it states in person, does not state posthumously. And also there's this other school of thought that have said it is only that according to the National Honors Act, it is only the military officers that can be conferred with such honors. So for us, since the Constitution, since the Honors Act does not state explicitly that this award shall be conferred only on living Nigerians, because it has stated in person, it does not state it can be awarded posthumously. So for me, I don't agree with that school of thought. But if anybody feels they want to take it further, I think we should encourage that in our democracy.
That's one argument.
Yeah.
Living or not living is one side of the argument.
Yeah.
Another argument is that historically,
yeah,
this award has been conferred on people who have actually occupied that office.
Yes.
And we're not talking about, does it then mean that we recognize him as president?
Well, that's by implication.
Because then, again, going forward with that argument,
yes,
does it then mean going forward when we have a list of past Nigerian presidents, would we have MKO Abiola on that list?
No, we won't have it on that list, realistically speaking and constitutionally speaking. That process that was aborted through the unsigned paper on June 23, 1993, that process has to be, put back in motion. That is the announcement of the result. What we should now have is for the National Assembly or putting in place machinery such that the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, as presently constituted, because government is a continuum. That body saddled with the responsibility for conducting the election should now go into the history books, extract the results of the election, because the results are there, are still validly in our record books. Extract that result, complete the process, and let the INEC chairman, as the chief returning officer of the country, then publicly announce Chief MKO Abiola as the winner of the 1993 presidential election. When we have done that, that means we have put a constitutional seal on his name as a president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But if we have not done that, constitutionally, we are not on the right track. So that is why a lot of us, even at the level of June 12 coalition, which we have been in the trenches for the actualization of this mandate, and even when Chief Abiola died in government custody, we still continued in that path. Even when thousands of Nigerians were murdered, where people's career in the public service was truncated just because the powers that be felt, they were loyal to a cause that has to do with the collective interest of the people.
Mr. Nelson Ekujuni, thank you very much for your perspective on this issue. I would have loved that we talk more about this, but that's how much time will permit us on the program. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. Mr. Nelson Ekujuni is the Secretary of the June 12 Coalition. And that's how we wrap it all up on State of the Nation today. Many thanks for watching. We would like to know your own thoughts on the issues. We can continue the conversation online. Tweet at me at KAY Alayande using the hashtag State of the Nation. Thank you for being a part of the program. I'm Kayode Alayande. Bye now.